We are ready. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Daily Power Parsha, December 22nd, 2020. Can you believe it? Indeed. All right, so we are in the midst of just the most incredible Torah portion. I'm going to share this with you. We're going to get started right away here, jump into the text, because there is so much good stuff to talk about. So Torah portion is Vayigash. And just so you know, it's the second to last Torah portion in the book of Genesis. So we're almost at the end of Genesis. We've been through a lot. We went through the whole creation narrative, Adam and Eve drama, Cain and Abel drama, Noah and the flood drama. We went through the story of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob, and all of the other characters and all of the other dramas and deceptions along the way. We've been exploring the story of Joseph and his drama and his trauma and his challenges. And yesterday we finally read about his revelation, the big reveal where he tells his brothers, hey, by the way, the guy that's been giving you a hard time this whole time, yeah, that's me. It's Joseph. Nice to see you guys again. They can't respond. And he says something that is very interesting. He says, I'm going to go back to what we said to yesterday's text, because I didn't point this out yesterday, but it is important to point out. He says, when he reveals himself to his brothers in verse 3 over here, he says, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? Now, that's a very curious question, because throughout the narrative, he's been asking about the father, and they've been telling him about the father, about Jacob being alive. So why would Joseph say, I am Joseph, is my father still alive? Throughout the whole story. Wait. Hold on. Let me be very clear here. Remember the final point that Judah said to Joseph right before Joseph revealed his true colors? Judah says to Joseph, I must bring back Benjamin to my father, because if I don't, my father will die, which means that Jacob is very much alive and well, pending Benjamin's safe return. So why does Joseph say the first words in the reveal is, I am Joseph, is dad still alive? Of course, the whole conversation is he's alive, and we have to help him with getting his son back. So what question is this? It's a good question, not just because I asked it. The question is from all the commentaries, everyone's exploring this question. Why is he asking about father, if he knows the answer? One answer is it's less of a question and more of a statement. Is my father still alive? Like, after so many years of heartbreak, of agony, of separation, I know how much I meant to him. Is he really still alive? Now, he knows the answer. The answer is, yeah, he's alive. But it's more of an expression of disbelief than an actual, I would like you to give me a yes or no answer. But it's like, how could father still be alive? Given all of the pain, all of the trauma, and all of the hardship that he has certainly gone through in my absence. Anyway, just something to think about. What's the lesson in that? Yeah, I don't know. I think we can all kind of apply it to ourselves, like the idea of surviving trauma and heartbreak. And even if somebody says, well, how do you do it? The answer is you do it. You do it because you have to. You do it because that's the way it is. I remember hearing from those who survived communism. And when I say survived, what I mean is they survived with their ember of Judaism still burning, even though the communists really tried very hard to snuff out all pride in Judaism and all public displays of Judaism. Nonetheless, many people still remained on the inside very proudly Jewish. And not only in the inside, but many created underground networks. Chabad was at the forefront of this because, Chabad comes from that part of the world. And the Rebbe spoke extensively about that and had an extensive network of operatives, if you would call them, behind the Iron Curtain. So I remember hearing that, when one of them got out with his family, so somebody once asked him, so like, how did you do it? How did you stand up to the communists and, give your kids Brit Milah circumcisions and have Jewish weddings and observe Passover and Hanukkah? How'd you do it? And I remember hearing this answer, which was very powerful. I'm not a hero. I did it because I had to do it. What do you mean? I did it because that's That was the circumstance that I was in, and I did it. So it's like you must be a superhero for being able to do it, or I did it because I felt that I had to. I did it because that's what the situation called for, and that's what was called upon me to do. And so I think in a similar way, Joseph is saying, is father still alive? And the answer is yes, and you know that, but it's more of an expression of disbelief. How could he still be alive? And the answer is because notwithstanding the pain, you have to keep on going sometimes,
Rabbi,
even with the pain. Yeah, Donna.
I've, I mentioned that I was raised in a community where there are very few Jews, and actually there was a lot of very visible anti-Semitism. And it's
Right.
kind of similar to what Mrs. Schusterman was saying last night, what she lived in, the West there, same situation. And anyway, so instead, I know some of the Jews that were there, they assimilated, they wouldn't even support me. Little things that like I did in my building here. And, but the fact that people were the outside community was looking to, hamper my Judaism, that made me want to do more.
Right. Right. Thank you for sharing that. And that's another dynamic that we've seen. It's an incredible dynamic. It's don't tell me that I can't, right? And on the contrary, not only is that going to discourage me, that might even encourage me. So here again, we have this idea of, I would call it resilience. Even when pushed against the wall, we still keep on fighting. Maybe precisely because we're pushed against the wall, we fight even harder, depending, which is what you're sharing, I think. So depending on how you look at it, either way, it's something pretty powerful. All right, so that takes us to today's reading. Let's jump right in. Genesis chapter 45, verse number 8. Once again, Joseph is making his brothers feel better about the situation, which is crazy, but that's what he does. And now he says, look what he says. Why isn't this working? And now, you did not send me here, but God. And he made me a father to Pharaoh. I like that line. Not that he's Pharaoh's father, but he made me a leader in Pharaoh's circle, a lord over all his household, and a ruler over the entire land of Egypt. But I love that line, that first line. Don't take the credit. Don't take the blame, he says to the brothers. You didn't send me to Egypt. God did. So I do not, Joseph makes the statement, and this is out. If we ourselves can do this, we would be in such an incredible place, in a good place. No mortal human being has control or power over me. If I'm here, God has designated that I should be here for a positive purpose, for a positive mission. I'm not going to give any other person that power over me. You didn't send me here. Hashem did. God did. All right. Now let's send message to dad. Here we go. Verse number 9. Hasten. Suddenly he wants to get this word quick. Hasten and go up to my father and say to him, so said your son Joseph. God has made me a lord over all the Egyptians. Come down to me, do not tarry. What a message after 22 years. It was 22 years because remember, it was 13 years. Let's just do the timeline very quick. He was 17 when he was sold. He was 30 when he stood before Pharaoh. So 17 plus, no. Yeah, so that's 13 years. Then 7 years of plenty, that's 20. Plus 2 years of famine. They were 2 years into the famine. So, okay, whatever. The math works. It's 22 years later. He says, tell my dad, 22 years later, this is message from your son Joseph, who you thought is dead for 22 years. I'm in Egypt. I'm a big macher, as they say, right? I'm in charge. Come down here. I got food. All right, 10. Take a look. This is the message. The message continues, but this is still part of the message. And you, Jacob, my dad, you shall dwell in the land of Goshen. Goshen was like a district or state or neighborhood. All right, you should dwell in the land of Goshen. It was a nice place to live. Like, lots of yards. And you shall be, good schools, and you shall be near to me. You and your children and your grandchildren and your flocks and your cattle and all that is yours. In other words, come down I'll take care of you. Retire. Everyone goes to Florida. Come, retire to Egypt. It's great. It's the new Palm Springs, Palm Beach, whatever. And that's California. All right, Palm Beach. And I will sustain you there. It's the Boca of the Middle East. And I will sustain you there. And I will sustain you there. In other words, in Egypt, or Goshen in Egypt. And there are still 5 years of famine, lest you become impoverished, you and your household, and all that is yours. In other words, we're still in a crisis, food crisis. Come down, I'll take care of you. Plenty of food, plenty of place to live, a good neighborhood. I got you covered. Come with the whole mishpacha, come with the whole family. And behold, your eyes see, as well as the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth speaking to you. In other words, it's me, Dad. It's me, Joseph. Come down and you'll see that it's me. And I'm still alive. And this he speaks to the messengers. And you shall tell my father of all my honor in Egypt and all that you have seen, and you shall hasten and bring my father down here. So that's the message. That's the message that he's giving to the messengers. In other words, tell my father this and go quickly and bring my father back down. All right, verse 14. Message has been delivered and it's on its way. And he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and he wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. Remember, Benjamin was the only brother that shared the same mother as Joseph. Beloved Rachel. Benjamin and Joseph shared the same mom. So Benjamin and Joseph are crying on each other's necks. By the way, tomorrow night's Torah studies class, which we are doing tomorrow night, not DPP. We're doing DPP in person tomorrow noon, but Torah studies 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night, Wednesday night, our weekly class, will focus on verse 14. Just giving you a heads up. So I'm not going to elaborate on it. Just there's crying on each other's necks. Let's continue. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And afterwards, his brothers spoke with him. And the voice was heard in Pharaoh's house saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. I love that line. It pleased Pharaoh. Pharaoh's like, great. Joseph is the bomb. Can you imagine Joseph's 11 brothers and his dad? Man, there's some wise people here that can bring some good blessing and fortune to Egypt. This is great. If Joseph has been a blessing, can you imagine the rest of them? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, do this, load up your beasts and go enter the land of Canaan. And take your father and your households and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. Pharaoh seems to be very genuine here in his offer. Pharaoh hears about it. Again, understand the timeline. The first thing that happens is Joseph reveals himself to his brothers. The next step is Joseph sends a message to his father to come down. Then Joseph tells Pharaoh. Pharaoh gets excited. Pharaoh tells Joseph, bring your dad down. Send moving trucks, right? The animals. Bring all the stuff down and set him up good. Let him live in the best of the land and eat from the fat of the land. All right, all good. Very hospitable, very nice of Pharaoh to do that. Wonderful. I'm sure he had his own agenda, as we discussed a moment ago. He wanted more blessing. If Joseph had been a blessing to his land, how much more so the rest of the mishpacha? So that was the agenda. Nonetheless, it was a nice gesture. And you, Joseph, have been commanded to tell them, do this. Take yourselves wagons from the land of Egypt for your young children and for your wives. You shall carry your father and come. In other words, bring the moving trucks. Take the wagons from Egypt, take them to Canaan, load them up, and bring them back for the move. And let your eye not be concerned about your utensils. For the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. Let's see if there's a Rashi on that utensils business. What would Rashi say on that? Let's see. No Rashi on verse 20. Okay. All right. I guess what he's saying is maybe if stuff breaks along the way, or maybe you don't pack everything, don't worry. The best of all of Egypt is yours. You got plenty of stuff at your disposal. you're not going to be lacking anything when you move down to Egypt. So we have Joseph advocating for the move. Pharaoh himself is advocating for the move. Either way, all signs seem to be pointing that soon the Jewish family, Jacob's family, will be located in Egypt. All right, let's continue verse 21. By the way, hold on. By the way, this is not the first time that in the middle of a famine, members of the Abrahamic family have moved to Egypt. If you recall, in Lech Lecha, when God says to Abraham, go to the land that I will show you, and he goes to the land that will become the land of Israel, in other words, Canaan, a famine breaks out, and where does Abraham and Sarah go? They go to Egypt. So it seems to be this, not it seems to be a pattern, but it's not unheard of that in a time of famine, you leave the Holy Land and go to another land. And in this case, Joseph was there, he was in charge, a great setup, and seems to be no reason not to. Let's continue. All right, all the instructions have been given, verse 21. And the sons of Israel did so. In other words, they followed these commands or these instructions. And Joseph gave them wagons by Pharaoh's orders, and he gave them provisions for the way. So again, just picture the scene. So you have the 11 brothers, right? All 12. So Joseph's staying behind, but 11 brothers are now going back home with lots of wagons and lots of provisions and lots of food to then go to Canaan, load everyone up, and then move back down or move down to Egypt. He gave them all, verse 22, he gave them all to each one several changes of clothes, not only food, but clothing. Look at that. And to Benjamin, he gave 300 pieces of silver. That was a lot of silver. And 5 changes of clothes. Okay, because he says, Joseph and Benjamin, they're the only two from the same mom. So he's giving him a little bit more. I guess some lessons don't always get learned, but he's not the dad. So he's he's a sibling. So he's giving him a little bit more. And to his father, to Jacob, he sent the following. Joseph sent the following. Take a look at the list. He sent 10 he-donkeys carrying the best of Egypt. And I'm going to assume the best of Egypt means, like I said a few days ago, I think, like the little snow globe with the pyramids. And maybe like a little camel that if you hold it, it walks from side to side in the snow globe on the fake sand. So he sent 10 he-donkeys carrying the best of Egypt and 10 she-donkeys carrying grain, bread, and other food for his father for the way. So 10 male donkeys carrying the best of Egypt, 10 female donkeys carrying grain, bread, other food. All right. It's a lot of food. And he sent off his brothers and they went. And he said to them, oh, look at this one. Look at this. He said, do not quarrel on the way. Oof. He knows his brothers. Until now, they've been like just shocked and doing preparations and meeting with Joseph and just getting everything ready. But he knows that once they start heading out on the journey and Joseph is not there, oh boy, finger pointing is going to start. Oh, it was you. You should have, you did it. You were the instigator. You could have stopped it. How come you didn't? How come you did? Da, ba, da, ba, da. And he says to his brothers, do not quarrel on the way. No fighting, no arguing, no nothing, no tension. Stop. Done. We're good. Let's see if there's a Rashi on this quickly. Not quarreling on the way. Let's see. Mark is corroborating that there is a Rashi. Let's take a look. Here we go. Rashi says, do not engage in a halakhic discussion. Do not quarrel about matters of Jewish law, lest the way cause you to stray. Well, that's a very nice explanation that really is judging for the positive. Like, don't get too involved in halachic Jewish legal conversation because you might get distracted. Go quickly home. Don't veer off course. Stay focused. Go home, speak to dad, and let's start the move. Another explanation. Do not walk with large steps and enter the city while the sun is shining. I'm sure that means something, which we have to look up. According to the simple meaning of the verse, Rashi says, finally, we can say that since they were ashamed, he, Joseph, was concerned that they would perhaps quarrel on the way about his being sold, debating with one another and saying, because of you, he was sold. You slandered him and caused us to hate him, etc., etc. That's the commentary that I was citing. As Rashi says, this is the simple meaning of the verse when he says, do not quarrel. Stop, don't blame each other for this. It's done. It's water under the bridge. It's 22 years old news. And I'm okay with it. And I told you already, it wasn't you. It was God who sent me here. We good, as they say. All right. Mark,
about
go ahead.
about the long steps and short steps and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, Bereshit Rabbah, I have a note on that. It says, according to this explanation, Joseph told his brothers not to let their eagerness to return to their father as quickly as possible lead them to do things which might endanger them, such as taking large steps, which the Gemara says impairs vision, or traveling by night.
Nice. Well, don't take large steps when walking at night, apparently. There you go. There you go. It's not a good, or in general, don't take large steps. Okay. And when you're walking the stairs, do not take two at a time, because that is how people trip. That's the bottom line. All right. Thank you. So that makes sense. That clarifies. Now let's look at verse 25. So they went up from Egypt, did the brothers, and they came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive. Wow, that's not so simple. They played Donna, speaking of music, they had one of the grandchildren, one of the granddaughters. She was very musical, and she sang Jacob a song saying Joseph is still alive. I'm going to pull up the Rashi in a second. So it was actually done through music that they broke him the news, because they figured he might get a heart attack otherwise. So they would break it to him in a way that was soothing and gradual. And they told him that, so they told him, number one, he's alive. And then they told him, alive. And then they told him that he ruled over the entire land of Egypt. And his heart changed. Well, that's an interesting translation. His heart, something happened with his heart, for he did not believe them. We'll see Rashi on that in a moment. There's some part of it sounded too good to be true. And after so much, 22 years of just, he's not alive, he's never coming back, he was killed by a wild animal, to finally hear this news was was unbelievable, right? You can imagine, unbelievable news. Let's continue, verse 27. And they told him all of Joseph's words that he had said to them. And then Jacob saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, and the spirit of their father Jacob was revived. So in other words, at first, he did not believe them, but the more he heard about Joseph's message, and when he saw the wagons, he realized, indeed, this story was legit. On a simple level, you could say, how would the brothers come back with the entire entourage and the best of Egypt and all the food with the little money that they took, unless it was really Joseph, who was the viceroy, and hooking them up? So that's on a simple level, but there's a much deeper explanation, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, I want to share with you the Rashi that explains how Jacob was told the news about his son Joseph. Here we go. Oh, it's not here. It must be a Medrash. Medrash says that it was Serach bas Asher. Serach, the daughter of Asher. Asher was one of the 12 tribes, one of the 12 sons, and he had a daughter whose name was Serach. Serach played, I want to say the harp or the flute, one of those two. And she was very musical, and she sang. I don't know all the lyrics, but amongst the lyrics were, Joseph is still alive. Somewhere she worked that into the song. And that's how he was told the news. But at first, like I said, he didn't believe, and then he believed. By the way, because she broke him the news so gently, Jacob blessed Serach with long life. And my understanding is, I'm trying to recall this from my memory, that Serach bas Asher, this young girl, lived. So her grandfather blessed her with long life because she was so nice to him and gentle with him. And she eventually, I think she even maybe lived all the way to the Exodus, like to the end of the Egyptian story. I think. All right, I should probably look that up and get back. Maybe by the end of the class, we'll have some more information. I'll do a quick Google search at some point. Okay, next is, okay, I still wanted to get into Rashi. Okay, it says that his heart changed. His heart changed. So what does that mean? Rashi says, Vayafeg libo, his heart changed and went away from believing. His heart did not turn to believe these words. The Hebrew term vayafag is a term similar to their taste changes, the language of the Mishnah. Okay, basically it's the idea of changing. Like at first maybe he was thinking, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it's like, no, it's not possible. So at some point his heart changed into disbelief, and then it changed back into belief when he heard the words and he saw the wagons. Oh, sorry, when he saw the wagons. Take a look at this Rashi, and I'm going to explain this Rashi. So they told him all of Joseph's words. Look what Rashi says. He, Joseph, gave them a sign in which topic he was engaged when he separated from him, when son separated from father. That was the section dealing with the heifer that was to be beheaded. And this is what scripture says. And he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent. Scripture does not say that Pharaoh had sent, etc. I'm going to explain all of that. Somehow, the message that Joseph sent and the wagons allowed Jacob to believe that indeed his son was alive. Why? So let me explain. According to our sages, the last part of Torah, Jacob and Joseph, father and son, would study Torah all the time, especially when the brothers were out in the field and, Joseph wasn't necessarily invited to join them. So they would study Torah together, father and son. Well, the last section of Torah that they were studying, and again, I know this is before Torah was given to the entire people, but as we've discussed many times, there was some form of Torah that was being studied. So father and son, Jacob and Joseph, were studying the section that deals with the unsolved murder. The Torah says that if you find God forbid, a dead body in the field in the middle of two cities, you measure which city the body is closest to. And then the elders of that city have to come out, and then you take a calf, that's never done work, and you basically sacrifice it on some level to atone for this, for the life that was lost and for the potential that was lost. Again, it's a case of an unsolved murder where you find the body, but you have no idea who did it. You can't bring anyone to justice. So there's a process. And the reason why the people of the city have to come out. Anyway, so here's what you need to know. The Hebrew word for calf is egla. The Hebrew word for wagon is agala. Egla, agala. In Hebrew, they're spelled the same. Ayin, gimel, lamed, hey. The Hebrew words, I'm giving a different vowelization for the two words, but they're spelled with the same consonants in Hebrew, the same letters. Ayin, gimel, lamed, hey. Agala, wagon, or egla, a calf. It's called egla arufa. That's the name of the law. Or agala were the wagons. So Joseph sent a sign to his father that indeed it was Joseph. Remember the last topic in Torah we studied together before that fateful mission to look for my brothers when they kidnapped me and sold me? We were learning about the egla arufa, about the calf in the case of the unsolved murder. Yeah, here agalot, here are the agala, here are the wagons. And that's, again, it's a play on words. A wagon is not a calf, but in Hebrew, they share the same letters. And so when he saw the wagons, the agala, he remembered the egla, he remembered the calf law that he was studying, and he realized this is a sign from Joseph. And indeed, this is legit. It's coming from Joseph. He's the only one that would know this and the only one that would send this sign. Does that make sense? And Rashi says that's why it says that Jacob saw the wagons that Joseph had sent, even though it was Pharaoh's idea to send the wagons. Pharaoh said, send wagons, send the moving trucks that they can load stuff on to bring down. But he didn't see the wagons that Pharaoh sent. He saw the wagons that Joseph sent, i.e. the message that Joseph had sent. Embedded in the wagons is, remember, I still remember the last piece of Torah that we studied. I want to go much deeper and share with you the mystical understanding of this. And it'll just take a few minutes, and then we're going to close it out. So very briefly, the whole point of the mitzvah of the egla rufa in the unsolved murder, why do you bring out the elders of the city? You measure the city, You measure this, it's between two cities. You measure which city is closest, and the elders of that city have to come out and atone for this loss of life. Why? And the priests and the Levites come out. It's a whole production. It's a national, everyone comes out for this unsolved murder, this dead body that we don't know how it happened. Everyone comes out. What's the message? Number one, there's no such thing as a loss of life that doesn't affect everybody. In other words, there's no such thing as just an anonymous, a person that doesn't have a name or a face or doesn't have identity. One person is in harm's way. It's everybody's business, number one. Number two, we call to task. We take to task the elders of the city closest to where that person was found, with the idea that perhaps they could have done something to accompany this person on the roads, that they wouldn't be walking by themselves and be in danger. Does that make sense? In other words, although we don't suspect that the elders of the city themselves murdered this person, nonetheless, there is some sort of accountability. There is some sort of accountability, communal accountability. Somebody left your city by themselves and harm befell them. You got to look in the mirror. And what Joseph was telling Jacob, what son was telling father is, you didn't abandon me on the way. You gave me guidance. You gave me instruction. You gave me the teachings that I needed, that on my journey, I didn't end up as a statistic. Joseph said to his father, I didn't end up on the side of the road somewhere. I didn't end up a victim of whatever and whoever. I didn't end up gone forever. I am where I am today, and it's because, unlike perhaps the city closest to where this person was found, in the case of this the unsolved murder, in this case, you did give me the spiritual fortitude, psychological, emotional fortitude that I've needed these last 22 years to see all the challenges through and to succeed. Does that make sense what I just said? So again, there's not only a convenient connection in the sun. Not only is the sign random, they happen to be learning about the laws of Egla Rufa. So instead of sending a calf, he sent the Agala, the wagon, which sounds like Egla. Okay, what does it mean? Why is that significant? And why was that the last law that they were studying? Right? Think about that. Why? By divine providence, that was the last law that father and son, Jacob and Joseph, were studying before Joseph is gone for 22 years. The message of the law is, don't abandon your brother, number one. Number two, when you're sending someone off, and whatever that means, make sure they have the tools, protection, whatever they need to see that journey through. That was the last message. And Jacob did impart all of those gifts and strengths and blessings to Joseph. And Joseph was saying, I'm appreciative, and your hard work paid off. Now it's time to come down to Egypt, Dad. I'm waiting for you with all the gifts. All right, that closes it out for today. Oh, and one more thing. If you look at the last Rashi, we'll end with this. The last Rashi, it's a one-liner. It says, Jacob, the spirit of Jacob was revived. What does that mean? The spirit was revived. So Rashi says, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, which had separated from him because of his grief, rested upon him once again. That means that for those 22 years, on some level, divine prophecy, divine presence, the prophecy of God, the communication, wasn't necessarily with him. It came back now upon hearing the news. So why did it separate? According to this parenthesis brackets, I don't know where that's from. It says because of his grief, or the way some other commentators explain it. It was, and we've talked about this before, God did not want to tell Jacob where his son was, that his son was still alive. For some reason, it was meant to be kept a secret until such time as it was revealed. So God says, I can't reveal this, so let's not talk for 22 years, and we'll resume the conversation then once you know. Anyway, that's another insight into this. Again, there's so many things that we could talk about, but hopefully the ideas resonated. So what are some of the themes we talked about? Number one, we started out by reiterating Joseph's perspective. No human being has control over me. It's only myself and my choice of how to be. And it's only God that has put me into these situations that I am in, or I have been in. It's me and God, and that's it. I'm not giving anybody power that they don't deserve, or they don't, I'm not giving anyone power. It's God and me and self-determinism. That's one message. Another message that we had was, let's see, what are some of the other messages that we had? We spoke about Sarah Bas Asher. Pharaoh getting excited about the family moving down, being very generous, message going up. Jacob being broken the news by his granddaughter in a gentle way, blessing her with long life, and she lived many long years. And the sign of the wagons. Okay, so that is it. Do a quick search. Sarah Bas Asher. Here we go. She played the harp. Now, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. I'm going to share my screen with you. I just went to Chabad.org. Give me a second here. Let me find this. Here we go. All right, take a look. Serach's. Oh, Serach. Okay, this is crazy. Serach helped Moses find Joseph's coffin by the Exodus, because she was around from the beginning, before she lived a long life. Serach lived a long, long life. The first time Serach is mentioned in the Torah is when Jacob went down to Egypt, right, in our narrative right now. The second mention is shortly before the Israelites entered the land of Israel, a time span of 250 years. Rashi notes that she's mentioned in the latter verses to point out the unusual length of her life. Another story about Serach occurred many years after the Israelites had entered the land of Israel. Basically, without going into details, the Midrash says that this person was Serach, and that means that she lived many hundreds of years. Okay, ooh, look at this. The Serach cemetery in Iran. Persian Jews called it Jew cemetery in Isfahan, Iran, Serach cemetery. Wow. Yeah, the more you know, folks. There's no end to the research that could be done. Enjoy. You can search yourself, just Chabad.org, Serach. I just Googled Serach Bas Asher, and that's it. All right, my friends, what's the moral of the story? Play music and get blessed with long life, perhaps. And also, we have to make sure to take care of others, especially when they might be headed or in a vulnerable state. We can't chalk things up to statistics. Worst thing we could ever say is, well, it's like if we're running a school, well, there's bound to be a few that, drop out or whatever. It's one is too many on whatever level. I don't want to even limit it to education or whatever. One is too many. All right.
I have a question.
Donna and then Mark.
So now Joseph feels that him being viceroy of Egypt is good, so he's bringing over his family. What did he feel? How did he feel from the beginning that he became viceroy of a different people?
It's a good question. I don't know. It seems like he took the job. It seems like he felt that this was maybe part of his story arc. If I had to guess, I don't know. I don't know that there's a source. I don't know of a source that clearly states it. My impression is that he felt that this was part of his purpose, his mission. And how exactly it was going to play out, who knows? But he was put into this position with that opportunity to maybe he saw that vision, that there would be a famine and it would affect the other lands, and he would have a place to bring his family into safety. Maybe he didn't realize, maybe he didn't think, maybe he didn't have that exact scenario played out, but he thought, there's no sense that he felt like, a little, maybe I shouldn't take the job because, a bunch of Egyptians. What's a good Jewish boy like me doing with a bunch of Egyptians? seems like he went with it, recognizing that this too was a divine opportunity. That's what I think.
Thanks.
Mark, sure, Mark.
Yeah, I've got a question
Sure.
about this. Is Rashi says this is about how Jacob finally came around to believing that Joseph was alive. But Rashi says all the words of Joseph gave his brothers a sign. What topic of study he was involved in. Wagons are a common thing. I can't imagine that wagons or that sign all of a sudden, oh, look, there's wagons. It's got to be great. This is an everyday occurrence. There had to be something more than just wagons. And there's actually a note here that says it was Pharaoh who sent the wagons by stating that Joseph sent them. Scripture intends that about the wagon being the eglah being wagon being understood as female calf. But there had to be some kind of sign on the wagon, something. It can't just be wagons to me, because that's a wagon's an everyday thing. One wagon.
Right,
wagon.
you're saying a wagon wouldn't stand out to trigger a sign.
Yeah, wagons, look, he's alive. Yeah.
So it could be that he also sent, because Rashi says he sent word, and it could be he sent both a message, reminder to dad about the last thing we studied, and the sign of the wagons. You're asking a good question. I don't know if he sent also like a coded message along with the wagons to explain it, or if the wagons just triggered it. I understand your question. A wagon's normal. It's like seeing a car. Aha, I know what that means. It's like, yeah, it's a wagon. Maybe he put like a calf, like, how cars have that little, I don't know what it's called, that little thing in the front.
Emblem.
What's that called?
Emblem? Medallion?
The emblem. So maybe there was like a little calf emblem on the Agala. I'm kidding. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure. We have to look it up. I wonder if there might be commentaries on Rashi. I can look at my my book O commentaries and see if I find something. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right. So tonight, don't forget, tonight, for those that are in our Talmud series, Talmud 8 p.m. For those that wish, tomorrow 12 p.m. in person. The weather is supposed to be nice, sunny and about 55 degrees, which, hey, that's balmy right now. That's fantastic. Light jacket, windbreaker, and you're good to go. So you can order from Spicy and make it happen. That is Wednesday. Wednesday night Torah studies is on. Thursday, we're going to be doing, please God, the 12 o'clock DPP. Thursday night, no classes. And I mentioned the Chinese dinner thing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pull it together. Logistics didn't allow us to do it. So we'll have to find another opportunity to do it, but it won't happen Thursday night. Friday, pending an email, we should be on, unless something comes up, which I don't know that it will. But stay tuned. All right. Thank you for joining. It's great to see you. Have a wonderful day. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye, Sandrine. Bye, Matt. Bye, Stephanie. Bye, Donna. Bye, Mark. See you guys.